Chapter 227. In this chapter, we continue with the side story about the past of the Dark King. At this moment, Lingling lies still on the ground, with a deep cut on her chest. She might not be dead, but she has fainted from fear. The poor people, who initially stood by indifferently, are now all terrified. A young mother, in a panic, says, "Sir, it has nothing to do with us. This girl made the wrong decision on her own." It turns out they are only afraid of being implicated themselves. The eunuch listens and then raises his whisk to cover his mouth, thinking to himself, "These people are not only poor but also selfish, only caring about themselves and scattering at the first sign of trouble." The eunuch coldly orders the executioner, "Behead her so I can report back." He is someone who does things thoroughly and carefully because the dead cannot speak. Bringing the girl's head back to report to his superiors was just a formality. The executioner raises his blade, and the girl, in her final moments, remembers Little Shadow and calls out his name. The blade flashes, marking the last moment of her life. The executioner, with gritted teeth and wide eyes, brings the blade down, ending his work for the day. But then he finds his own head severed from his neck, without knowing why. The eunuch stands stunned, unable to react, and the townspeople are wide-eyed with shock. What they see is unprecedented: a black eye with inky tendrils wrapping around Lingling and holding the executioner's head. The atmosphere turns icy with deathly intent, accompanied by countless squeaking sounds like bats arguing. Little Shadow has appeared and saved his only friend. The speed of events leaves everyone frozen. The eunuch hurriedly commands, "What is that? Quick, kill it." The executioner next to him, sweating and terrified, has never felt such tension in carrying out a kill order. But he needn't worry for long, as he is killed instantly. The eunuch falls silent, his face turning pale with cold sweat. He begins to lose his footing and screams in panic. This scream awakens the stunned townspeople, who run away like mad, shouting, "We've encountered a ghost! We've encountered a ghost!" Little Shadow, in his fury, roars in a raspy, crackling voice like a broken radio, sounding truly savage. "None of you should think you can escape." Little Shadow swings his dark tendrils, striking out in all directions with incredible speed. No one can escape. Some have their hearts pierced, others have their intestines ripped out. The poor townspeople scream in agony. The louder they scream, the faster they die. Yes, their crime was watching Lingling being oppressed and killed without doing anything. Little Shadow controls his cold tendrils, slaughtering all the townspeople. No one can escape. Amidst the desperate screams, Little Shadow's eyes grow increasingly emotionless. The bloody scene has somehow become familiar and numbing to him, his eyes now dull and devoid of any emotion. The eunuch was deliberately left alive by Little Shadow. He knew he couldn't escape, surrounded by dead bodies on all sides. Terrified, he collapsed to the ground and screamed, "Please, no, please don't kill me." He even wet himself. The warmth of the urine strangely calmed him a bit, and he began his plea, "Let me go. I will do anything you ask, please." But the only response he received was the cold, dark tendrils wrapping around his body. "No, please don't," he begged. Little Shadow appeared before him, the air thick with the aura of death, and his voice, like thousands of souls speaking from the depths of hell, said, "I want you to die." And so, the fate of the main culprit was sealed. He was crushed to death slowly, a horribly painful death. I don't want to describe it too much. Just imagine your testicles being squeezed until they explode. Although this eunuch didn't have any. Lingling lay motionless on the ground, bleeding and in shock. Little Shadow approached her, calling her name. His eyes and voice immediately softened, almost to the point of tears. "Lingling, I have avenged you. Please wake up." He kept calling her name, but she remained still, eyes closed, even having stopped breathing. Little Shadow panicked and screamed, "Don't die, Lingling. Please don't die." His scream, filled with despair, echoed across the vast area. The atmosphere suddenly thinned and was replaced by the breath of death. The trees withered rapidly, leaves falling off, turning the lush forest into a desolate wasteland. At this moment, Little Shadow's mind was suddenly isolated. A control panel appeared before him. With tear-filled eyes, he was confused, wondering what this was. His space seemed to be an isolated and delicate one, where he could see the fundamental molecular structure of this world flickering around him. On the black panel with white letters, it read, "System activated. Generational overlap can be used. Activate the divine engine." Little Shadow didn't understand what the system was, but he heard something about activating a function. He wondered if this could bring Lingling back to life. He stopped crying and stammered, "Be Jin." The system responded to the command and started up. A deep, authoritative voice echoed, "System activation, dark race, none, talent, corpse, dead creatures will automatically be converted into evolution points. Buyer can use evolution points to purchase skills, evolution points, 15040. Little Shadow said he wanted Lingling to come back to life. His eyes filled with hope. The system responded, "Proceed with skill purchase. Absolute restoration skill costs 10,000 evolution points." Lingling was immediately acknowledged by the system, and a faint blue light lifted her into the air. The divine light caused her to open her eyes. Little Shadow rushed into her arms, calling her name. "I thought I would have to live alone forever." His eyes squinted as if he could cry at any moment. "Please, Lingling, don't leave me again." But the only response was Lingling's vacant stare, as if her consciousness had not yet returned. No, at this moment, Lingling also embraced Little Shadow and slowly said, "Okay, I will not leave you behind." The sky was very gloomy. Suddenly, Little Shadow was attacked and his body was pierced through. His eyes turned blood red, and he shouted, "Ag, why?" It turned out that the one who attacked him was Lingling. She had taken an executioner's sword and, without hesitation, stabbed it straight into him. She even screamed the name of the Dark King in anger. At this point, Little Shadow was consumed with a killing frenzy, and all his tentacles pointed towards Lingling. He also roared, "I want to kill you, Lingling." Back to the present, humanity's navy was enduring fierce attacks. The side of the warship was hit hard, causing the bow to split in half, but other warships continued firing relentlessly. Meanwhile, in the middle of the sea, a bizarre creature emerged, black as night, resembling a spider but with a body like a spiky ball. Yul immediately took notice. This creature was incredibly strong. Yet another gigantic and strange being appeared. Damn it, its size was even larger than the king of the sea. It looked like a sea urchin with two enormous legs. Don't tell me that it's another Dark King. End of chapter 227.